Good obituaries now brought to you by Curtis and Son Funeral Home, the North Chapel on Highway 21 in Sylacauga, and the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg. For pre-need funerals, burials, or cremation since 1975, Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg. Now 9 minutes before the hour in obituary news, Sybil Marie Maddox, age 79, of Sylacauga, died Wednesday. Curtis and Son Funeral Home announcing the arrangements. Funeral service for Freda Nosworthy, age 85, is Saturday with visitation from noon until 2 at Curtis and Son North. Funeral service to follow at 2. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing. Funeral service for Donald Wilson, age 78, will be Monday at 10 a.m. from Marble City Baptist Church, with Brother Mac McCaleb and Brother Russell Gooden officiating. Burial in the Alabama National Cemetery in Montevallo. Mr. Wilson died January 18th at his residence. In lieu of flowers, contribution can be sent to Alabama Childhood Food Solutions or the Gideons. Visitation is Sunday 3 till 5 at the funeral home. Radley Smith Funeral Home directing. Mr. Harold Jacobs, age 82, died at his residence on January the 17th. Funeral service January 25th, 2 o'clock at Urshery Funeral Home in Talladega, with visitation 1 until 2 o'clock. Burial in the Pine Hill Memorial Park. Urshery Funeral Home in Talladega directing. Visitation for Odell Looney is today 1 until 6 o'clock at Community Funeral Home. And funeral service for Mr. William Pope will be Saturday at 2 o'clock from Community Funeral Home Chapel, with burial in the Tallahatchie Cemetery of Childersburg. Visitation today 1 until 7 at the funeral home. Community Funeral Home directing. Celebration of life for Mr. Nathaniel Few, age 91, of Ashland, is Saturday at noon from S.M. Goodson Funeral Home Chapel. The Reverend Shirlene Harvey officiating. Interment in the Oldfield Cemetery in Ashland. Public viewing today 3 until 7 at the funeral home. S.M. Goodson Funeral Home directing. And Lavelle Bell Hutto, age 92, of Talladega, died January 19th. Graveside service will be held at Oak Hill Cemetery January 24th at 11 a.m. with Steve Burke officiating. Urshery Funeral Home in Talladega directing. Bell was a member of the Bethel United Methodist Church and worked for Talladega County EMA at the Talladega Courthouse for more than 40 years. Urshery Funeral Home, Talladega directing. And Esther Jobson, age 81, died January 20th. Talladega Funeral Home in charge of the arrangement. Family receiving friends Friday from 6 till 8 o'clock at the funeral home. Funeral service Saturday at 11 a.m. from Talladega Funeral Home Chapel, with Brother Ron Hurst officiating. Talladega Funeral Home directing. Celebration of life for Mrs. Bertha Jones, age 87, of Talladega, is Saturday at 2 o'clock from Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, with Reverend Clinton Walker officiating. Interment in the Bethel Cemetery. Public viewing for Ms. Jones is today 3 till 7 at the funeral home. S.M. Goodson Funeral Home crematory directing. And funeral service for Mrs. Hattie Lee Jones is 11 o'clock this morning at Macedonia Memorial Gardens in Goodwater. Pastor Robert Russell officiating. Zion Memorial Funeral Home directing. Reuben Alfonso R.A. Milam died January 19th. Graveside service 11 o'clock Saturday at Providence Baptist Church Cemetery, with Frank Gunter officiating. The family receiving friends tonight 6 till 8 o'clock at the funeral home. Urshery Funeral Home directing. And funeral service for Mike Harmon Jr., age 56, will be 11 o'clock Saturday. Brother Roger Singleton officiating. Burial in the Evergreen Cemetery. That service will be at Radley Smith Funeral Home in Sylacauga. Actually, it's at Curtis and Son, I'm sorry. Visitation is today 6 until 8 o'clock at the funeral home. Radley Smith Funeral Home in Sylacauga, however, in charge of the arrangements. And finally this morning in obituary news on this Friday morning, the 21st day of January, obituary is brought to you by Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.